She's still laughing.
That's so funny. Welcome to 5 Lemons Left. We're the real stuff, the lemons making lemonade. So pucker up, because we're going to be discussing our life's lessons and the nitty-gritty details of our spiritual journeys.
Hey y'all, I'm Amanda.
And I'm Drusilla.
I'm Melissa.
Hello, this is Morgan.
And I'm Penny. Welcome to our podcast today.
Welcome everybody to another episode of 5 Lemons Laughing. Ponder this, y'all. If we're not our bodies, then why do we get ill? Why is there disease in the body? Today, we're diving deep into that question. Yeah, a little bit uncomfortable, I have to admit, talking about this. It's not what mainstream talks about.
Why does it make you uncomfortable, Amanda?
Because it just feels uncomfortable because I can't even put my finger on it right this moment, because I don't want to tell anybody what their bodies, what they're experiencing in their body is right or wrong. I don't feel comfortable stating something that would be really super controversial, right? I was raised differently. I have a feeling like somewhere in me, if I start talking about how to live differently on a huge scale, well, then some people are going to start toggling me off their friends and family lists.
And even a step beyond that, is there a sense, I know there is for me, that to go there also means that you are opening yourself up to certain things that you would be faced with as well?
Yeah. Wow, Drusilla. When you were saying that, my mind, I could feel opening, when we get down to working this deeply on this level, that means you're healing your stuff. Yes. That means you're looking at all your stuff and it's out there. It's vulnerable. Mm-hmm. It's vulnerable, Penny. Thank you for asking me that, to get into the real root cause, because it's the uncomfort is vulnerability on a bunch of different levels. Yeah. So buckle up, people.
Well, let's hear about what this is all about. I think Melissa's going to share some information, right?
Yes. So I'm going to read a little summary. I'm going to try and go fast, so let me get right into it. A Course in Miracles, ACIM, says the body is seen as a neutral vessel, and it's not our true identity. Illness and disease are reflections of mental conflict originating from the mind's belief in separation from God.
Can you repeat that one more time?
Yes.
Just that last sentence. Just repeat that one more time.
Illness and disease are reflections of mental conflict originating from the mind's belief in separation from God. Mm-hmm. That we are on our own. We've got life on our own. We're not one with a higher power. So the Course teaches that sickness is a defense system against that truth that we are one with God. Meaning sickness is a manifestation of fear and guilt that we project onto our body. Mm. It's not a physical reality, but rather the result of mistaken thinking. That's important to write down or talk about later, because I am sure that someone with a terrible illness right now would say, yes, this is a physical reality. I really do have cancer. So by me reading this, it is not a physical reality, but rather a result of mistaken thinking. That's hard to digest. So the body being a projection of the mind reflects our mental state. And when the mind is in conflict, it creates illness. So now on to what ACM says about healing. Healing involves changing the mind, not the body, which I love because we've talked about this a lot, especially recently. And the Course emphasizes that healing is accomplished the instant the sufferer no longer sees any value in pain, which we've also talked about, like what the ego values, right? Being separate. So sickness is a choice made by the mind. That's hard to digest. And when we realize fear and guilt, the body no longer needs to reflect this conflict. True healing is a shift in perception, recognizing that we are not separate from God, but one with Him. The shift or miracle allows us to experience peace and well-being, freeing us from the illusions of sickness and suffering. Back to you, Amanda.
I love that. Our news anchor, Melissa, in the house. Back to you in the studio, Amanda.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
It is.
It's a lot.
It is a lot. And I understand totally why it makes you uncomfortable, Amanda, because we don't ever we want to discuss these topics that ultimately can lead to the healing of our mind, the healing of our body, etc. But we don't ever want to make anyone feel ashamed or guilty or, or else just to have like a fearful response or just a negative reaction to what we're saying. So part of it, I think, is our own personal fear of conflict. And then the other thing is that we're not really saying anything different that we haven't always been saying, which goes back to that A Course in Miracles quote, I am responsible for what I see. Everything that seems to happen to me, I ask for and receive as I have asked. And, this goes to everything we've talked about. We did the Abundance Chronicles. It goes to creating situations of lack, experiences of lack, or experiences of abundance. It goes to creating experience of disease in the body or experiences of health and vitality in the body. Like there's all kinds of subconscious inner workings at play that are like we're creating our own reality. So we're not really saying anything new here. It can feel a little uncomfortable. And we all can have resistance to accepting that responsibility. I know I do.
Mm-hmm. And I know that in A Course in Miracles isn't the only one that talks about it either, right? Who else talks about it? It does, like Louise Hayes. Is she Course in Miracles based or is something else? I'm asking the question, because I know she talks about it a little bit. Does someone who knows about Louise a little bit more about her feel comfortable?
She's part of a different church. I can't remember exactly what it was, but I don't think I've ever heard her. I was at her 90th birthday party and then she died shortly after that. Aww. But I don't think I ever heard her say anything about A Course in Miracles, though I know Robert Holden, who's a big Hay House publisher, and there's others are Course in Miracles people. So I missed it. I don't know. But yeah, Louise Hay did a lot of work to heal her mind, which then healed her of cancer as well. So, and she's got one of my favorite books is You Can Heal Your Body. And it's all about the body book where she gives you, okay, if your hand is hurting, what could be the possible cause, the probable thought that's going on in your head? And then she gives you an affirmation to replace that thought, so that you can start focusing on what you really want in your life, which is your hand not to hurt, and to clear up whatever fear or guilt, like you were saying, Morgan, the fear and the guilt of that causes a lot of things to show up in our bodies.
Yes. And I love that we live in a time where like this is becoming more mainstream and accepted by even the scientific community. And we have like these books like The Body Keeps the Score. And I know there are numerous others out there, but that one has gained popularity recently, about how like, you know, our thoughts become beliefs, and if unchecked, those become emotions and feelings that manifest in some physical expression. If it goes through all of those phases and doesn't get checked or caught or processed along the way, it will come out physically. It will express physically.
On some level, yep.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned that about it being more commonplace. You know, I think you all know that my sister was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer over a year ago. It'll be 2 years in January. And I have mentioned a few times that I don't really talk to her about her illness much at all, but I have been waiting on the opportunity to see what her thoughts are about, you know, the mind and healing her body through her own means. And so I was able to have a little bit of that conversation with her last week, actually. And she was very open to the thought. I would say more so on a spiritual level than just the mind thought. I guess instead of just science of mind, more spiritual, because what I said to her was, and I know she has a strong spiritual belief, and I said, so you do believe that God answers all prayers, and you've prayed to be healed. So if you're not getting what you prayed for, then it's only because you believe or you're holding on to something different. And which she agreed to. And so the next step was to dig a little deeper and understand the last part of what Melissa said was there must be something you're getting out of it that you're holding on to instead of releasing that and accepting that you are healed. Right.
Oh,
And she was very open to that thought.
mm-hmm.
I mean, how could you not if you have a strong belief in prayer, you know? And so she was able to, you know, conclude the same thing.
First of all, I just want to say, Drusilla, wow, and yay for having a conversation like that, right? For even, and it sounds like you just did it, broached the subject amazingly. So, yay.
Yeah.
Go
Well, and it sounds
worker.
like you did
Mhm.
it from a space of really like connecting in with your higher self and trusting, you know, if and when it was appropriate, and like willing to not have the conversation if you didn't feel that guidance, because that would not feel like a loving conversation to some people. But
And I'm having deja vu right now, y'all. That this already happened in this exact order. It's so weird.
Mm.
Wow. But yeah. I knew I was going to eventually have the conversation with her. It was just about the right timing, and the energy felt right. And I knew she was going to be receptive to it because spirit wouldn't have told me otherwise, you know.
So how is she doing, Drusilla?
She's in perfect health as far as I'm concerned.
Awesome.
I mean, mentally, she's like so awesome, you know, and that in and of itself is half the battle. And I would say, you know, in the conversations, just even with she and I, she always knew that she had a lot that she was carrying. Like she was, and I think we talked about this a little before too. She was my mother's best friend growing up. So she was the oldest daughter. And so my mom relied on her to keep all of us, the rest of us, in check. And they were just like, and so they had a fracture somewhere along the way, and they still not reconciled to the degree that, anyone would like. And so we talked about a lot about her, forgiveness and, being able to forgive a lot of things that she's experienced in her life. And so that conversation just goes directly in line with the healing conversation.
Mm-hmm. I like the way that you tied it to the Bible, because here I'm going to go again, misquoting the Bible.
Go for it.
Yes. My interpretation of what Jesus said, right, is like your faith heals. And to me, that's mind. That is Jesus who knows, like without a question, without any doubt in his mind, that he is as God created him. He is the creator. He knows it. He knows he's God. He knows he is a connection. There's no separation between him and, as the Bible said, his Father. And then him taking this vibration into contact with people that are sick, and then people having enough faith in Jesus to say, yes, I'll accept this healing, right? That's a mind faith thing. And that speaks to the heart of A Course in Miracles for me. Being raised in the church, as bad as I misquote the Bible, it still means a lot. That's I get the foundation of that. So to me, it directly ties into it. And that's where the miracles start happening, is having that faith. And I'm so glad that your sister and you are based in that faith to have those conversations.
Yes.
And I think
definitely.
that we have so much resistance to, it's natural. Natural might not be the right word, but it's normal, I think, for us to have so much resistance around fully accepting responsibility for our experience, even when big doo-doo shows up in our lives. But we're not saying anything revolutionary or new here. I mean, the placebo effect has been around for decades, and it's, well studied in science, and new drugs have to outperform the placebo pill in order to get past. So people heal all the time taking a sugar pill because they believe in their mind they're taking medicine. They're using the power of their mind to heal, and they just need a little white sugar pill for their ego to accept the healing. So it's just a trick of the mind, a sleight of hand. So it's really not new, but it is also quite normal to have resistance to really accepting that responsibility.
So when Melissa was summarizing, she was talking about the separation, right? The separation in that, for me, it means I'm not connected to my source energy. I'm not connected to the energy that connects us all, right? That's how I get to it. And that's where disease comes from. So I want to go back and talk about that. I don't want to be the one that talks about it, but I want to go back to that point because my mind is stuck there. So I'd like to have a discussion around that, because that's where the illness, disease, according to the Course in Miracles, that's where it starts.
Yeah. To me, it kind of goes back to, I think it goes back to what we discussed last week, that we are putting power into form. We're putting power there instead of the source. So we're giving way to the body, to anything in this illusionary experience that we're having to mean that we are experiencing that. So I'm trying to say this without getting back to woo-woo, but yeah, so it's not as if, so if we were to apply it to the previous conversations, it's not as if the physical experience is not there, right? A person that's experiencing pain, they are experiencing that, but they only got there because they gave power to the experience of this illusionary world. And does that make sense? Or did I miss a gap? That it's, yeah, so it's all because of giving power to form.
Mm-hmm.
No different than the experience when Morgan said she was having a discussion with her husband and she was outside herself and she could see her form. And she was like, this doesn't even mean that much to me. Okay, if you stay out here and this person that's the witness, then that can never manifest into form. It can never manifest because it doesn't have any energy, any source energy. Right? What you give energy to grows.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And resistance is a form of energy as well. What you resist persists. So it's also like Byron Katie, loving what is, acceptance without needing things to be different and without needing to change things, which is a whole other concept to, like, it's a whole other thing to navigate that feels challenging. Like, okay, I'm just supposed to accept that, whatever.
Well, the other way that I look at it too, that might make a little more sense is I don't doubt that at any given second or moment that we all have some cancerous or some illness in our bodies, but we're not given energy to illness. I'm not, and that's the only reason that maybe I don't have a diagnosis. Right? I'm a firm believer in that the world is evolving. I think you've explained this too, Morgan, that it's changing every minute second. We can't even count the fraction of how many times our cells are evolving and changing, right? And this is the more scientific explanation of it. That I can't imagine that I don't have cancerous cells and that I've never had them in my body, right? And it is the energy that's given to it, whether it's in form of negativity, unforgiveness, holding on to, thoughts that are destructive, all those things that if I did hold on to those things and give energy to it and give energy to the belief that I am a body, that I have no power, and that I am a victim of this universe, then those same cells in my body would be manifested in that way. And I would associate with that as illness.
Yeah, I am pretty sure that my dad died of a heart attack because he was so angry. And the heart is attached with anger. When you have heart disease and things like that, it's all about anger and being upset with how things are going for your life. And I really believe that that's why he had a heart attack and died. He just could not get beyond the anger. That was 40 some years ago. And I can't, I don't really know for sure, but just that's my thoughts around it. That's basically what you're saying, Drusilla, is sometimes you can get beyond it and sometimes you just don't have the capacity to do that.
Yeah.
But I want to get beyond it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And yeah.
I think that's why we're attracted to each other, and whoever's listening to this is attracted to this. It's because we have all said yes to being on this spiritual journey together. We've all said, I want to grow beyond this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I had a mini breakthrough last week. In my past, which does not exist, I had strep throat a lot. And last week, I started having a scratchy throat, and the thought kept appearing like, I wonder what this is. I hope this isn't strep throat coming. But like past me would have constantly been reaffirming to John Mark or to anyone who would listen, like, my throat is sore. I think I might be getting something. And I just wouldn't let myself go there. And I even declined to cover for a yoga class. And I said something like, I'm healing from a throat thing. So I think it's best if I don't. And I was very careful with the way I spoke about it and the way I energized it. And I did do some holistic remedies, which of course in Miracles calls magic. So, but that's what my little ego personality self needs to support like the physical healing. That's the way that my mind can accept it right now.
But is there anything wrong with that? I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
No, I don't think so either. I don't think so either. It's just, but it is nice to be aware that that's what it is. Not to make that also the real purpose for the real reason behind the healing. But so yeah, I did end up getting like one little sore on the back of my throat, and it never developed more than that. I never got the fever that usually knocked me on my ass for a couple of days. And then it just like went away, and it never really became anything. And that's the first time that has ever happened. So I feel like I have to celebrate that progress. Like I didn't completely not ever have any symptoms, but I didn't let it balloon and grow into more. I was very mindful of the way I spoke about it. I didn't really speak about it very much. And I just kept affirming that I was healing.
I love that, Morgan. I had a similar experience last week too, on Friday, as a matter of fact, last week. In the past, I have been subject to cold sores when I get stressed, and I was doing some release work, and I think some stuff was releasing through my lips. and I just, when I realized that my lip was starting to feel tender, I just said to myself, hold it. I am not subject to getting cold sores anymore. And I did not energize it. And I said, I'm going to make sure I get enough sleep. I'm going to drink plenty of fluids, and I'm not getting a cold sore I didn't say I'm not, because whenever we say not, then the universe only hears, oh, I'm getting a cold sore. So I said something like, no, I'm just not subject to this anymore. Oh, that's also a not. Anyway, I said something that energized that. My lip was going to stay healed and whole. I too got a small little bump on my lip, and it's nothing like I used to get them. Oh my God, I could barely move talk. I would get them so bad, and they were horrible. So I feel like that's progress. That it's just a little tiny bump, and there's a little tiny sore, but it's not painful. Never was painful. So I think that that's progress for me too.
Yay.
Yes. Yeah. And I could hear like a collective screech in the universe when Morgan, when you were talking about like, I'm not talking about it. Like how many times has the old thought patterns come up and we're reinforcing them? I always get cold sores. I always get strep throat, telling everybody about it. Increasing the drama of it. Like if we were going to talk about how do I go from step A, getting cold sores and strep throat to healing that type of situation.
Yeah. I love the way Byron Katie talks about the illnesses in her body. She says, the doctors tell me I have but she doesn't ever like own it personally. But the doctors tell me I have and I just think that's a really like clever way to
I like that.
phrase it. Yeah.
Well, and also when like I have, or my there's, oh gosh, I can't think of how it is now, but there's a way that we always say like, oh my gosh, my
illness.
Pardon me?
My illness.
Yeah, it's something like that. But instead of saying my, you say the illness or the cold sore or whatever. You don't own it, because I'm not going to own that shit any longer. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a great first step. It's just not taking ownership of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I was looking up what Louise Hay says about cold sores.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
What'd she say?
Yes, let's hear.
Festering angry words or fear of expressing them.
That's so funny, because my coach,
That's
love
a
that.
laugh of acknowledgement, Penny.
Yeah, I know. I love it though, because my coach gave me the assignment of getting pissed and mad and saying "F you" to my dad, because I have a lot of stuff around my dad. And I had a really hard time doing it, like go and scream and hit pillows and stuff like that. And I'm such a freaking good girl that it's really hard for me to do that.
So, and is this around the time you were starting to get?
Yes.
Oh, yes. Wow.
I'm telling you, that's why I said it was I know I'm releasing something, and it was all attached.
Wow. And you stopped it, Penny.
Mm-hmm.
That's wonderful.
But I kept at it. I didn't let myself stop.
You stopped the cold sore, but you kept processing and letting it out.
Yeah, and I'm only doing it for 5 minutes a day, because that's about all I can handle. And then I move on with my day.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, what a great healing technique. Mm-hmm. I like the way Hawkins talks about it. The way he removes himself. So it's about my understanding of Hawkins' teachers is about like remembering that I am source energy. I am the energy that connects us all. And the way he describes it is so like, I've been working with the ring. I have ringing in my ears for some reason. It started about a month ago, like, especially when I go to bed really loudly. And it's like looking that up. Thank you. I really listen to the ringing in my ears. Is like, I really like go into the ringing in my ears and like am part of it. And then from there, I can realize, oh, I can hear the ringing. So that means I'm not the ringing. And then so like I'm able to step it back to source. So that's one that I'm really, really working on, that it's just kind of stuck. So
that's cool. I like that.
Have you ever asked the ringing what their message is? What do they want you to hear?
No, why would I do that? What if I don't want to know? Go back to the beginning.
You know what it is?
Tell me.
Refusal to listen.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, what don't we want to hear, Amanda?
And not hearing your inner voice. And stubbornness.
That's hilarious.
Stubbornness. That's not Amanda at all.
Well, I just said that it's not wanting to hear, and Amanda literally just said, no, I know. I don't want to know.
Want to know? Come on.
Oh, Melissa, this is so juicy. I have to know. So tell us what an injured toe means.
Which toe?
Because I injured my pinky toe on my right foot. And then one of my close friends injured her toe on the same day. Yeah.
Okay, toes represents the minor details of the future, like knowing that the future is going to be taken care of.
Oh my
About
God.
stepping forward.
Yes.
Feet and toes are about stepping forward in life.
Oh, wow.
And I was doing some body stuff with this guy. And so right side would be, it's like male, female, and like right would be giving and female would be receiving. So like you're I don't know about the toe part, but it'd be like an anger. Let's say it's angry or it's anger. It would be you angry at something, or the other side would be feeling the anger of someone else.
Which side of the body was the toe injured?
On the right.
Mm.
That would be directed outward, right?
Yeah. Well, makes sense anyways. Was it, did it have anything to do with your movie or like the future of your movie or anything?
No, probably relationship stuff.
Mm.
Ugh. Because when we were talking about not listening, like the first thing that I went to was, I'm going to listen to my husband all the time. Relationship stuff.
Well, no, you know what? I don't know. I guess I'm more receptive than I thought, at least as something as minor as a toe. I don't know if it were bigger, if I would be as receptive. But immediately when it happened, after I got over the hurt, right, I said to myself, oh, goodness, let me try and remember what I was thinking about at the time that happened, because I need to understand what the root is. And I was definitely thinking about some relationship stuff. So very applicable, Melissa. Thank you.
Wow. Very cool.
That's powerful. Awareness.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So let's go to a little tip and tricks. Like, we've talked a little bit about like what we do, but like, I don't know. What do you do with the toe? Like, is having this conversation like healing, right? Just like the awareness of it, putting those two together. Do you think it's less likely you're going to stub your toe in the future, or?
Well, let's just say that I was very surprised that it happened, because I have not had anything like happen very active. And so I haven't. And even in my mind, I thought it's a surprise that I haven't, because it's not like I don't have stuff, right? I got stuff. So I was really surprised that it hasn't happened more often. And with this same friend, we were talking about this kind of a lighter version of this topic. And I had said she was trying to convince me that I needed to go to the doctor because she says it's probably broken. And I'm like, nope, not going. Because I haven't been to the doctor in like 5 years or something. And so I don't know. I feel like I started doing the work mentally, and that my toe is going to heal faster than one might expect. And that's where I do. I just have conversations with it, and expect that it's going to be healed.
And so it is.
And so it is.
Yes. I did this meditation once with, are y'all familiar with Cryon?
No.
As channeling. And so he has this meditation that he has you walk through the bridge, and the bridge is like crossing over to the other side. And then he leads you into this big arena where you're always on center stage, but you never know who's going to be sitting in the audience. And sometimes it could be family, sometimes it could be work colleagues or whomever. And then he walks you through what you're going to say to everybody. And this particular meditation, everybody that's sitting in the audience are cells of your body.
Mm.
And so you talk to the cells of your body, like, I'm going to live a prosperous, healthy life, and I love you and you love me, and we're perfect and whole and complete in every aspect, and blah, blah, blah. So every now and again, when I'm thinking about my body, I just go through that meditation, and it's right there. It just comes up so quickly for me. And so I just would do something like that. I'll have a conversation with the cells on my toe,
So cool. I love that. You'll have to find that meditation and share it with us, and you can pass it on to our listeners as well.
I will.
When I went through my neuro-linguistic programming practitioner training, our Nadine, our beautiful facilitator, she taught us this song, and it's every little cell in my body is healthy. Every little cell in my body is well. Every little cell in my body is healthy. Every little cell in my body is well. I can tell every little cell in my body is healthy and well. Glory, hallelujah, glory, hallelujah, glory, hallelujah. I'm healthy and well.
Applause.
Yay!
So that's a tool that I use frequently, is just to sing that little song to myself too.
Mm-hmm. And isn't that a technique of seeing, like, retracting a little bit, right? So you are not your cell. You're singing to your cells. You are not your body. That takes us back to you're not your body.
Yeah.
You're free. Yeah.
Yeah. And I love that singing is a way to raise our vibration. And Amanda, you mentioned Hawkins earlier. He's the one who developed the map of consciousness, which we talk about on here often, the levels of consciousness and the levels of vibration. Like, finding a higher vibration is another way to heal the body. Above the level of 200 is where healing occurs, and below the level of 200 is where disease occurs. So sing and raise that vibration.
Yes.
Yeah.
You guys, we're coming to the end of our time. Any final comments before Penny wraps us up? Before the Penny's posted? I bet you there's some good ones today.
I think that all the things, the tips and tricks here are like the stop signs for the ego. Like, it stops the ego from continuing to telling yourself these stories. I'm separate. There's something wrong with me. I'm full of disease. I'm in pain. I'm hurt. So these things that we tell ourselves over and over and over, instead of the shift, and you're all talking about, like, telling yourself positive things and that kind of thing, but going back toward the beginning of the separation from our source. So I was thinking, we've all heard that the water and the ocean, like, we're waves of the one large ocean. If you're just this little wave out there and you don't think you're connected to the ocean, you're alone. You actually don't even probably have any form, right? But when you realize you're part of the ocean, how powerful that is. Like, the ocean is just so powerful, and it feeds everything. So I think that those things are the like, okay, let's stop the ego here and then get back to where the power is. The power is in our source. And so to remember, and however that is, and to remember that, to not feel shame and guilt that you might have a disease or you might have an illness, because that's just bringing you further away from the source, right? And that's just your ego saying, look what you did. Look, then that's not what we're saying here. I think we're saying it happens to all of us. Our ego talks to us all the time. But what we're practicing is that we're practicing always, like, reaching back and knowing our source. Like, how can you plug back in? Right? How can you plug back in the outlet? How can that you as a little loner wave over here come back to the ocean, which is where all the healing and the power is?
Yeah. Beautiful. The disease is trying to scream, hey, look at me. I really am separate. This is really happening to me. And then you're talking about, like, how we interrupt that and remember the truth.
Remember the truth. Perfect.
Yeah. Remember the truth, because true healing is a shift in perception and getting reconnected to back to God. Yeah, that's one of the first things. And then healing involves changing our mind, not the body. And I mean, even though we don't know what anything is for, we are responsible for what we see. I am responsible for what I see. So, it's a really great subject. And thank you so much for hanging with us today. I think that, there's going to be more around all of this. Next week, our topic is around trauma in the body. And so stay tuned. There's so much to cover, and that ego is just pervasive and just wants to get in there and disconnect us all the time. So stay tuned. We thank you for listening today to episode 93. And just be kind and loving and gentle to yourself, especially when you hear that critical voice talking. And just bring yourself back to love as quickly as you can. That's, I think, the best thing that we can all do is just be loving and kind to each other and ourselves. So thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.